Hello, Sean here, Mountains Garage. In the past 24 hours, I lost the 4 or 5 inches of snow that was on the ground that I had to plow on Wednesday. It's all gone now. The wind blew, things flew, and now the sun's out, it's calm, and I'm back to fall, looking like fall again. My dream of a green Christmas may happen, but it's still too early to tell. I had one when I was a kid. It was my favorite Christmas, 1974. Anyway, today we're working on the 64 Dodge Dart GT Turbo LS swap. The other day we managed to make the engine fit in the bay, hooked to the transmission, and things were close to fitting. It looked like the project was a go because you never know. I could come up against something that I don't want to deal with, call it quits. Not likely to happen, but at least caused a great expense. But I think it's going to be all right. The first order of business, if you watched the video the other day, is I was going to make a spacer for the transmission mount. So I took a piece of this thick aluminum, I believe it's 1.5 inches wide, and made a simple 2-bolt spacer to space the transmission up just a little bit. That and setting the engine perfectly level in the chassis now clears the long drop fitting that I have on the oil filter, because I have to run a remote oil filter with the Jegs front sump oil pan that I have. I'm going to buy tight radius fittings, so I should have a ton of room. That problem solved. So with the transmission spaced properly and the motor sitting level, the next thing to do is to make motor mounts. I went out to the outside speed shop, my storage box out in the woods, and dragged in a whole bunch of mounts, which I'll go over. During this whole process, and in the last video, I was working on my kidder notcher. Well, I decided to take the control switch apart again, and I fixed it good now because I broke it. So now I have to upgrade, thanks to an excellent viewer suggestion, a couple of viewer suggestions, there we go. I am going to convert it to probably push button, on and off, and get a different style controller that's not $1,000 and probably likely to fail. So should be able to knock this project out for $100, $150 hopefully. So thanks for that. If you know any more about 3-phase motor starters and all that stuff, I've watched a few videos, got a couple friends helping me out there, but if you happen to be an expert and can say, hey, buy this part number and these 2 switches, hey, that's good too, because that's the power of the internet. That's the good of the internet. Anyway, let me show you my stuff and what I've figured out. It's going pretty good. I'm trying to continue with the bolt-on theme. I could weld all kinds of stuff in there. As you saw, I already did plenty of cutting, but that was already started when the guy had the small block Mopar in there, so I'm actually just improving that area. But as far as the bolt-on stuff, hey, if I can do it and it's easier, why not? When I LS swapped my Dodge pickup, I put in brand new rubber mounts, and in this package, well, somewhere I also have the 440 mounts and these are original rubber biscuits, which would probably work through the hole in the frame. But with turbo piping going out by the radiator and stuff, having flexible motor mounts, this car is going to be better suited to have solid engine mounts, or at least a poly mount. So that was my thinking. So I did not go down this road. I'll put those back. I have a couple sets of these I bought on clearance. These bolt right onto the side of the LS motor. And it could probably work on the passenger side, but the steering box is in the way for something that's directly off the holes of the block. So that's not going to work. This style is a GM style to convert your traditional small block mounts or big block mounts to an LS. It gives you some adjustment back and forth, and something like this would definitely work because I need to skirt by the steering box, and then I have room, and this is up where the engine originally mounted. So something with a poly style mount. I have a solid mount. I also got these stock car style, which would also bolt on there. So I was trial fitting those on there, and it looked doable. You may or may not remember when I was putting the twin turbo LS into the 72 Nova, I was looking for these particular mounts right here that I made 5 or 6 years ago, maybe more, for a 63 Nova that I had. It was a project Also going to be a Turbo LS. It had a Mustang 2 style clip on it. And I made these to set the engine up and back a little bit. And turns out they would not have fit the 72 Nova, but I was curious if I could find them. They might work on this Dodge, and they're all made. They're certainly heavy duty, but they're not that heavy. They look pretty mean, but before these sat around and rusted, I had done some of my finest TIG welding on them 5, 6, 7 years ago. So I was curious, what would they look like in the car? There's the aluminum spacer that I put in between the transmission and the fabricated bolt-on LS Swap 64 dot transmission mount. I'm using this stand to hold the engine perfectly level. I set the first mount in place and it cleared everything on the easy side, the passenger side. It fit so well, I just made this simple bracket that bolted in the stock hole, bent it over, made a piece of pipe to go through the mount. This side is done. Just got to weld it up. This is the underside view that I can reach up and tack it. And these are just short bolts, just because it's easier than threading a nut onto a long bolt just to hold everything in place, but I'll fix that up fancy when I'm done. The driver's side is a little bit tighter, but I think with a little modification, I can make the side fit as well. I need to trim these off a little bit right here, and I might have to make a little scallop in that support, but hey, nothing to lose here. Let's see if we can make this old junk work. This is just some pipe that I found to go inside the motor mount that I cleaned up on the lathe. It gives a little bit of clearance around the bolt. It's not, machine fit. Most motor mounts aren't. Give you a little chance to get the bolts in there, but it's not loose either. It'll be just fine. I was able to get these in the chop saw and then rounded them up with the belt sander. And this one I just held the belt right against it and actually made a pretty nice looking relief. Let's see if it fits. Well, with just a little bit of grinding, this side fit like I made it for it. What should have been the hardest part of the job and taken the longest took the least amount of time, thanks to finding these mounts. Let's take a look at it from upstairs. Top side view on the passenger side. Simple. The driver's side was a little bit tighter. Had to do it slightly different, but same deal. One bolt. Had to drill a new hole about an inch back from the stock one. So no big deal. And yes, those brake lines fought me the entire time. They're coming off. The block of wood is out. The jack stand's gone. We're swinging free. I can service the pan in the car, no problem. Get right at it. Tranny clears the floor, even though I got to cut it all out. It's good to know that with the shield and all, we're close, but it clears. The other night, I ordered the pieces to build the drive shaft. I just have to make a final decision on whether I'm going to use the 8 3/4 or the 9-inch. And a good homework project. I need to determine if the nose, how far it sticks out from the housing, is the same. Then my drive shaft construction would not affect it. It would fit either way because I'm using the 1350 U-joint either way. So if the 8 3/4 and the 9-inch Ford stick out the same, I'll do a little measuring. Heck, let me do it right now. I'll be right back. Survey says the 8 3/4 sticks out from the center of the housing about 1 inch longer. I run a short yoke on the 9-inch Ford, and I'm not going to monkey around with yokes to make a drive shaft work. So, some days it's better to stay in the house. That day was yesterday, Saturday for me. I did spend most of the day in the house doing all kinds of family stuff and some projects in there. And then in the evening, I came out for a couple hours. I broke the switch on the kidder notcher. I broke the jaw on my Matco vise. I bought the vise when I built this bench right after building the garage. And yesterday I broke it. Now it's my fault. I missed with the hammer. Big hammer, it's over there. Trying to bend a piece of metal. I just should have stayed in the house. Today, with a new attitude, which you need to have a special attitude working in my shop right now because, as usual, it's a mess. I am wallowing in my own stuff. But I'm focused on what I was doing, and sometimes you just want to get to a certain point, promising yourself you'll clean up later on. So next step, I need to dig some cylinder heads and some bolts and start seeing if some turbo stuff's going to fit, because the engine's where it's going to be. This swap is going to take place, and I'm pretty happy about that. It's the last time I'm going to mention the fact that this could have gone the other way. Well, we'll see. Anyway, like, share, subscribe, please, all that stuff. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. I'll catch you in a couple days. Maybe we'll have pipes and everything else on there. Who knows?